Am I live? What's up, guys? You know what night it is. Friday night, cards and back to the classic chocolate cake, red velvet, the ultimate combination, kind of like the Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski of cakes right there. That is what it's about. And I had to bust out my super fancy camera that has a horrible lag just to show you how amazing my cake is. I hope you guys have had a great week. This is going to be an amazing solo hour on the live stream because I'm going to share with you some of the cards I've been investing in over the last couple months. I've been a bit hesitant to show you what I'm buying because I want to add context to it and attach the price and the reasoning behind it so you guys can make your own decisions versus just look at what I'm doing and then replicate it, because that's not the point of this. But before I get in, got to do the catchphrase. Welcome back. Now let's get to work. Let me say hi to some of you guys here. I love how early some of you guys show up. Crazy Card Deals, Cody Kappas. Dude, that's very cool, man. You're going live in your group. I definitely have to check that out sometime. Mike C is always here early. I appreciate you, Mike. Steve and Ryan, I hope you're having a great week too, my man. Serious Play a One. Yeah, man. The thing is, every time I see Tyler Hero's name, I just imagine that snarl after hitting one three-pointer and hitting it off, like shooting it off the side of the backboard 3 times that game. And then I always think of that Foo Fighters song. I think it's just called Hero, right? Like, kudos, my hero, la 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 la, whatever it is. But I love Foo Fighters. JJ Bama, what's going on? Dude, enjoy your whiskey. I'll have cake and I'll show you guys some of the investments I have. And the goal of these investments is to roll it over and get cards for myself, pay some bills. And so these are cool cards I'll show you, but they're definitely more investment pieces than collection pieces right there. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing, man. Dude, if you guys have noticed on the last couple live streams, I'm using this little webcam that has a halo light attached to it, which is great, but the background will be clear and my face will be out of focus. And it's so damn annoying because StreamYard doesn't have any of these settings for your cameras. So you can't just go in and turn the autofocus off. So I want to use this camera. At least my cake looks way better. So if you're just hopping on, I'll show you guys the cards in a bit, but I got to show you my fancy bougie $18 LA cake that still won't satisfy me. So I'll have to have some cereal as well. All right, guys. So I see a lot of you guys hopping on. Great to see you, AZ. Big boy cards and collectibles. Yeah, absolutely. Tyler Hero can be a hero. He just hasn't been. All right. So a couple things before I get in. Number one is I am super proud, super happy to have a sponsor for my 15K subscriber giveaway, whenever that is. And if you guys didn't see the last little story, this $850 box of Prism No Huddle will be going out to 18 of you guys. And so there will be directions on how to enter, but this is paid for by the sponsor. So it's going to be free for you, which is a win for me. It's a win for you. It's a win for the sponsor. I'm just really happy that we're at that stage where we can have a sponsor and you guys can get some free cards, but that might not be for another couple months until we get to 15K. I don't know what Mariah Carey song you're talking about. I mean, Always Be My Baby. That was a good one. Or the one with P. Diddy, like back in 1996. That was pretty cool too. Baltimore in the house. You might actually be pleasantly surprised because, Steve, one of the cards I have is of a player that plays for your Baltimore Ravens. So you guys can fill in the gaps there. Dawson. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Look, I try not to be the flashiest person out there. I want to be more responsible because I want us to be in this hobby for more than 6 months or a year. I want us to be in the hobby for the next 10 years and 20 years, which means that we can't get wrapped up in a lot of the stuff that is very sexy and very fun and then get burnt. We got to be a bit more responsible and make sure that if we're doing breaks, we can afford it. If we're buying for ourselves, we can afford it. And whether you're collecting, investing, or doing a combination of both, we're doing it at a sustainable pace because I'd be screwing myself if I was doing something that would lead you down the path of only being in this hobby for 6 months and then finding something else. So I really hope you find the joy of the hobby. What's up, Zom? How's it going? Okay, so a couple things, guys. I might as well just dive right in because there's 43 of us watching. These are some of the cards I've been buying the last couple months. And if you're a football fan, you're going to enjoy this. If you're not a football fan, you're probably not. But understand that the the thought process behind it applies to every sport. And if you guys have been watching me the last couple months, you know that I'm a pretty risk-averse person. I like being conservative. I would rather make a guaranteed 30% than swing for the fences and overpay and then lose money on a card, because then I'd get a bitter feeling, and I'd rather not do that. So my strategy is definitely more buy in advance, buy what is low, and then look at the numbers ahead of time. So let me share the screen now, and I'm going to show you guys the charts, and then I'll show you the actual card. Yeah, let me do that. Okay, so crazy looking screen right there. This is the first card I've been buying. I have been going in on Kyler Murray's Prism PSA 10 rookie card, and I've actually bought several of them, which I'll show you in a bit. But when I was looking at this card, what I saw is, for one, this thing went all the way up to $1,000 in September and then dropped all the way down to, I think, let's see what the low is. Low of $333. Now, the cool thing is that I've been able to get this card for about, I think these were my purchases here, about $360, $380, $390. And what's great about Kyler Murray is that he's on the Cardinals. There's a lot of buzz around them. J.J. Watt signed to the Cardinals, and I just feel like he's a pretty good buy overall. But what I didn't expect is for these prices to continue to climb. And so you see one of the last sales, $570. This one, $585. And this is just 2 months after I bought these cards for $360, which is kind of crazy considering this is off season. And so for a card to go up $200, or let's see, like 50%, 80, something like 70% or whatever number in the off season when we're so far away from the actual season, that's a bit scary. But the other thing I want to point out, if you are buying 2019 and 2020 rookies, is if you take a look down here at the pop report, there's 1,900 of these cards in PSA 10. However, when I was looking at these cards back in January, when it's 360, 370, this number was about 1,400. So remember that if you're buying 2019 and 2020 cards, which I'm more hesitant to do now after seeing this pop report grow like 40% or whatever number, about, like 40% in the last 2 months, this pop report right here could grow to 3,000 or 4,000 by the beginning of the season. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully this is the majority, but I could easily see the pop report growing another 1,000 before the season. And so the danger of it is that if you are buying rookies, if you're buying new players, if you're buying guys that are just being ripped at from breaks and then sent into PSA or wherever else, there's a good chance that what you're paying for, that number, that pop report, is going to double and triple and quadruple. So even from the Kyler Murray example, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait and not even invest in rookies or even be a bit hesitant on second-year guys, because we also know that there are so many cards now being produced that if they're not a 2018 rookie or before, I don't have much confidence that the actual pop report is accurate. I feel like that's just going to grow and grow and grow. So I'll show you the actual cards, since, you know, a chart doesn't really do it. Where are the charts? Okay. So just to prove that I actually am buying it, we got one. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of these, and they were about $380 a piece, roughly. But I feel like this is a very safe investment right there. And the other thing to keep in mind is, if you ever find like an SGC or a BGS 9.5, there's a chance that you can get these very cheap because not too many people will search for them. So if you're looking for a certain rookie card, they might only be looking up PSA 9, PSA 10, and not looking up BGS 9.5, BGS 9. And yes, those are harder to sell, but at the same time, you might be able to find them at such a low price that you could easily sell it for a profit versus everyone going after the 9s and 10s. And as for Kyler's Select, you know, I got to look up those. I got to look those up for sure. I will say the other guys have been buying, I've been looking at their Optic and Select, and that's because obviously I'm a Select fan. I'm an Optic fan as well. One of the guys I'm going to show you, I got several of his Optics, and the pop report is extremely low. And so it's one of those things where I'm not tied to just Prism. I'm not tied to just Optic. I'm not tied to just Select, but I do want to make sure that they are the sets. Those 3 sets, at least I have faith that when a player takes off or when they're building their legacy, I can at least move those cards. I saw another, and here's the thing too, is a lot of times, because I'm buying so far in advance, I don't mind selling after the draft. I don't mind selling after a trade or in training camp. And so there's a lot of opportunities. If I were to buy right before the season begins, I'm relying on that player to play well versus the hype leading up to the season and a trade and all these other things. So we see it with LaMelo Ball, we saw it with Dak Prescott, we saw it with all these guys where they should have done well, right? They should have played great. They should have had great seasons. Christian McCaffrey, all these other guys. But then all of a sudden they get an injury, they get COVID, something happens, and their prices plummet, and you have to hold on for at least the next 6 months or year until the hype returns again. So it's one of those things where I'd rather buy very early and get out somewhat early than buy pretty late and get out super late, and I may have missed the window and the prices may have gone down again. What's up, man? Good to see you there. They do. Definitely need some more pieces, but that's what's cool is that we have the draft coming up in about a month's time. Okay. As for by color, not base, for me, I'm looking for liquidity. I'm looking for when Kyler Murray throws a Hail Murray, when he throws that touchdown pass, what cards are people flocking to? For long term, I think the serial number, the colors, that's great. But for guys that I don't have too much faith in long term because I haven't seen too much of yet, I want Prism, Prism Silver, Optic, Optic Hollow, Select, and Select Silver, because when people are searching during that one game-winning free throw or game-winning three-pointer or Hail Mary or whatever, they're not going to the colored card. More than likely, right? They're more than likely going to the Prism Silver, the Optic Hollow. So that's my take, at least. And this could change every time. This could change, or this could change in the future. All right. I hope you're right, man. Hope you're right. Here's the thing. It doesn't need to be what can he win, because my strategy is not even that far, right? My strategy is what's going to happen at the draft, what's going to happen in training camp, what's going to happen in preseason, and that's it, because there's a lot of opportunities to sell there. If I'm relying on him to win a Super Bowl or take the Cardinals to the deep in the playoffs, that's very risky. I'm putting way too much on the line on him. I'm putting way too much on him versus how many different ways can I get out earlier than later. And that's why I'd rather be early. All right. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So let me move on to the next one. And I will answer this real quick. Luka, Zion, all these guys, I'm not investing for the NBA playoffs because I've not been watching closely. And if I was investing for the playoffs, I would have done it earlier. But what interests me a lot is Luka in the offseason, Zion in the offseason. A lot of these guys, when they get eliminated, or when these teams that they're not going to make the playoffs, when their stars start going down in price, I will look there. I will try and stock up as much as I can, because that's when I feel the best. I feel the best when they are coming off of a huge disappointment, like an injury, a down year, whatever else, and their price is reflected. Like Deshaun Watson is an interesting one as well, because Deshaun Watson, he had the most hype of any football player that I've seen this offseason. Trade rumors, top quarterback, where is he going to go? All this. And then the Texans said they're not going to trade him. And then all these allegations and accusations came out from all these women about him sexually assaulting them. And so if you take a look at Deshaun Watson's prices, they went through the floor. I mean, they just completely disappeared. So the question now is it a good time to buy Deshaun Watson or not? I actually bought a BGS 9.5 of his for $400. And I thought if this year is a complete wash, I still think that worst case scenario, this time next year, he'll be in a better situation and he'll still be a young quarterback, very talented, and have a bright future. But he's just in a lot of hot water right now. And when his prices reflect that people have given up on him and think there's no way he's going to make it. He's a like he's going to be guilty, he's going to be suspended, he's going to all this kind of stuff. That's when I'm at least curious because then all the hype has just washed away from his card prices, and what's left is just disappointment and what he's really worth at that moment. So that's when I like to go in, even if it's a bit higher risk for this year. Okay, so next card here. Let me see here. Hey, you know, here's the thing, man. I don't know what you paid for him, JJ, but like you can't overreact one way or the other, right? You can't overreact. Like he's going to get traded to a Super Bowl contender and he's going to be he's going to be the missing piece, and that's going to happen. And then we can't overreact that there's 46 allegations of sexual assault, because it's like, okay, that sounds bad, sounds real bad. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's one of those things where we can't overreact. We got to be like, all right, let the court system handle it. Let's see what goes on, what the NFL will do if he is found guilty or if there's a settlement or whatever. But again, I think that's the long-term strategy is Deshaun Watson. I don't think his career's over, because if you remember Michael Vick, remember the trouble Michael Vick got in, and he did something I think is like horrible, right? The dogfighting ring. And he was found guilty. He went to jail. And then I think he was the only player that came back to the NFL and signed another $100 million contract. So if someone had a Michael Vick card and a rookie card, and that news just broke and they sold it for pennies on the dollar, well, you know, yeah, you got some pennies back, or you got a couple bucks back. You lost money. But you know, if you know you're that talented and you're still at a young age, hey, you know, if you're a talented quarterback, you're very rare. So just hold on. Don't be too hasty to get out, because unless you're happy with what you can get. But for me, I would rather think of it as, all right, this year's a complete wash, and next year, what's going to happen with Deshaun? And if I can get in cheap now, it's not like I'm dying to get in, but I would at least consider it depending on where the prices are. Okay. Yeah, I'm all about liquidity. There's too many confusing cards, and there's too many new sets coming out, like Hoops Premium and Optic Clearly, and I'm like, I'm confused. What do people actually want? When a player goes on a tear, what card are they looking for? Are they looking for the Donruss whatever, or the Optic, what's it, Hoops Premium, Optic Clearly? Are they looking for all that, or are they just looking for Prism and Optic and Selects? And it's usually just Prism and Optic first. Okay. And the other thing too is, yeah, I'll show you guys the next guy. Let me see where he's at. Okay. And this is a beautiful card. I'm a big fan of this card right here. And Aiden, I have bought several Ronaldo and Messi PSA 9 2014 cards, but I have sold all six. I've sold 16 out of 17. I have one left on eBay. And besides that, they have all been over with. I'm just reading this right here. Maybe, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. I think no matter what, the tie-dye cards, the tie-dye selects are great. I think they're beautiful cards. Here's the thing. Whatever happens to Deshaun, I don't think his career is over. That's my take. So if his career's not over, then could just be buy low now, and you have to wait more than 6 months or 12 months. Maybe it is an entire year, and then he's back this time next year. I just don't think it's going to be that severe. Yeah. Here's the thing, Dex, is I'm assuming it's jail and suspension, and he's out a year. That's the worst case. Let me go on to the second card here, and I'll show the chart first. And that is Lamar Jackson. Now check this out. Someone in there was asking about Kyler Murray's Optic PSA report. If you take a look here, this was updated, let's see, the 22nd. This 152 Lamar Jackson Optic Hollow PSA 10s, 152. Now that is incredibly low. You see here after his MVP year, it went through the roof. It peaked at $2,800, which is just stupid. $2,400, blah, 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 blah. And then they didn't play that well. And then it dropped down and dropped down, dropped down. And I think these were my last couple purchases right here. Because if you take a look at this date, February 25th is the last date for this card. So that means that there hasn't been one of these cards on eBay in over a month, and it makes sense when the pop is only 152. But I believe this is what I paid right here is 750, 711, 693. I'd have to look it up, but it was right around there. And the reason I liked it is because it's a good looking card for one. I got This is a 9 right here, but I do have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I do have 4 of these. Let's see if that. I think it's a great looking card. It is hollow. It is PSA 10. And because there are just so few of them, I would rather go with one of these than with a Prism. But I will say that I looked at the Prism PSA 10s of Lamar Jackson, and they are really low as well. One thing to keep in mind is that if you take a look at what the Ravens need in the draft and in the offseason, their biggest needs were, according to these websites that go over draft needs, wide receiver, they said tight end, but they have a good one in Mark Andrews, wide receiver and offensive line. And so I actually like it when a team needs complementary weapons because it tells me that the player itself is good. They just need better people around them. And just like Russell Wilson in Seattle, it's the same situation where he's complaining that the offensive line is lousy. So if you know that someone that talented who has so much leverage on a team can complain because they need more support, then the team better get it, get those players. It's kind of like if LeBron is on the Cavs and he's complaining, yo, you need to get me someone better. What else can they do? They've got to put all their chips in on helping LeBron out because they can't lose their superstar. So I expect the Ravens to do something in the draft. I expect them to get another wide receiver or perhaps offensive lineman. They did pick up Sammy Watkins, which is somewhat of an upgrade, but I like them getting more players, and then at least it's building up hype towards the Ravens and how they should perform next year. And maybe the fantasy football people will think Lamar Jackson will be better next year because of these complementary players. But that's more of my focus right there. So I got 4 of those. Let's see, 4 of them in PSA 10 and 1 in PSA 9. And then I'll show you my last card in a second. All good, Joe. Good to see you, man. We'll see. I don't think he's going to jail either. Here's the one thing is that a lot of the cases are for the same thing, but they're all things I believe he could settle with or is willing to I think it could be a settlement versus getting thrown in jail, but who knows? I'm not an attorney or know any of that stuff. Dang, yeah, that sucks. That sucks. Sometimes that happens with uploading to COMC, StarStock, or PSA. Okay, so check this out. This is a good question right here. And actually, let me answer this real quick. Every day I'm hustling. What's up, man? Good to see you. Here's one guy that I bought 2 of his PSA 10s in is Jacoby Brissette. And one of them was only $50. The other one was $65. And he's actually the backup to Tua. And it looks like the Dolphins are really putting all their eggs in the basket of Tua, and he's going to be the starter. But I really don't mind investing in backup quarterbacks, especially the best backup quarterbacks, when it's only $40 or $50 or $60 for their PSA 10, because Tua got benched last year. He can have all the weapons in the world. He could and still get injured. He could still play pretty lousy. And Jacoby Brissette is one of the best backups in the league. So I'm looking at it like worst case scenario, I can get my money back, right? He might not start, but I think having a good quality backup quarterback for that $50 price point of a PSA 10 or $65, I think that's a pretty good upside with very low downside. Bennett asks, thoughts on investing in vintage and players that will be featured in the Kobe documentary. So very cool question because we just saw a huge drop in 80s, 90s, 2000s, and vintage. And if you look at all the charts, Michael Jordan and David Robinson and Kobe and Shaq and all those guys are dropping. Hakeem Olajuwon, Karl Malone, everyone. And so I was thinking, well, this is great. This is a great time to look at these prices and see if it's worth going in. But when I did a bit more thinking, I was like, well, what players would I choose? If all the guys from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s have gone down in price, who are the ones that I would want to target first? And then it came down to Kobe, Shaq, and maybe Charles Barkley. And I actually got a couple of Hakeem Olajuwons, but I kind of didn't mean to win that auction. It just, I happened to be the highest bidder, and I was okay with the price. But going back, I'd probably put that money towards Charles Barkley or Kobe. But the point is that, and Magic too, Magic Johnson. But the point is that if all of the vintage and the 90s and those guys have gone down in values after that big spike, I could see, for one, Kobe being always relevant and always collectible and always admired. Kobe Day is August 24th, and I don't know what the status is on the documentary. Maybe it's released on October 24th or August 24th. Maybe they just announce it on August 24th. I have no idea, but I'd rather go with the guys like Shaq, who is on TNT, who's a very likable personality. He's going to be featured a ton in Kobe's documentary, and at least there's more reasons for me to believe that Shaq will get attention and hype versus someone like Karl Malone, who, even though he's a great player and, you know, one of the best ever at his position, blah blah blah, he could just not be talked about for a while, with the exception of maybe the Olympics coming around and talking about the Dream Team from back in the early 90s. But I like the idea of Shaq and Kobe a lot. I'm always going to be a fan of them, but with the documentary and with Kobe Day and all that, it makes sense. That's interesting. Here's the thing. When you have a star quarterback, it's hard to get him off the field. I mean, it's hard. Okay. First year. All right. I want you guys to answer this one because I don't really have too much thoughts on first year optic. Because I remember when I got in about a year ago, first year Prism was a thing, and even first year optic people were talking about. And since then, it feels like no one has mentioned first year optics. It feels like first year Prism is still somewhat of a thing, but yeah, I don't really have an opinion. Like I wouldn't buy a first year optic LeBron just because no one's talking about it. It's not, I don't know. He has just so many other cards, and I think the one card that is super cool is with him guarding Kobe, or is it Kobe guarding him? It's him guarding Kobe, I believe, and that's a Topps Chrome card. But I think that's way better than other stuff. The first year optic. Wi-Fi looks like it's spotty. Dude, yeah. Here's the thing: if Michael Vick can come back, then so can Deshaun Watson. Dude, I'm totally with you on that one, man. Yeah, my whole thing is I don't want to judge one way or the other. I want to see what is actually true, because there are people that are guilty that get away with it, and there are people that get blackmailed and they're not guilty, and more than likely it's somewhere in the middle. But I just want it to be whatever the truth is, for that to come out, and we'll go from there. Charles, I don't know where your cake is, but my cake is right here. Both slices. The Gronk Brady connection right here in cake. Okay. So let me go to the last one that I have been investing in. And Charles, no non-sports cards really. I've gotten some like small stuff for myself, but like not anything big. And I have been selling my old Pokemon cards. So I have about 25 hollows I'm keeping for myself, and then the other 70 or 80 Pokemon hollows are on COMC. But let me bring up the last guy real quick. And this is someone I mentioned already. That's Lamar Jackson. That's not him. And that is it. Russell Wilson. And if you take a look here, you see before the year started, Russell Wilson was my biggest regret, because I saw his prices be so low compared to Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. And I was like, why is Russell Wilson so low when he's won a Super Bowl? He's a great quarterback. He's established. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Everything looks good. He's a respectable guy. He's liked. He has a celebrity wife. Why in the world is it so low? And then I didn't really buy too much of him except for on COMC, and I sold those cards when he went on this crazy MVP tear. But if you take a look at his Prism PSA 10, 383 of these cards updated yesterday. Compare that to Kyler Murray, who has, 1,900 or so of his PSA 10s. And you see here, like, all right, this card had peaked at $3,000, another sale at 2,700, another sale at 2,800, albeit this was during his crazy good streak. But then I was able to get him here. I believe these are the purchases. I got 4 of them, and I think these are them. Let me see what the price are here. Yeah, it was in the 8s. It was in the 800s. So it may have been these 3, something like that, or these 4, or something like that. But the most I paid for 4 of them were 800 and something, and then I bought another one later for 1,300. That may have been mine right there, but the pop report really mattered here. 383 is just insane. So I'll show you guys the cards right here. There we go. Okay. I got, how many do I got? 6? Did I get 6 of these things? That's a lot of money, man. Like 6 of these. Okay. See, they're real. So 6 of these Russell Wilson PSA 10s. And so, you know, not the flashiest card, not the nicest looking card in my opinion, but super liquid. And I think that's why I like those older players a bit more, because when you have a PSA 10 Prism with a pop report of under 400 of a future Hall of Famer compared to Kyler Murray, who's great and I like him, but 1,900 and growing quickly in that pop report, all things even, I'd rather go a couple years back. So even going forward, I'm going to be looking more at the guys that are 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in, and just seeing where they are and letting the rookies and the newer guys just rest for a year or two until I understand what products they come in. And, you know, maybe Hoops Premium turns out to be a very desirable product for LaMelo and some of these newer guys. And I won't know that because I'm just going after Prism, but maybe it's some other new set that people really gravitate to. So I'd rather just let all the new stuff go to the breakers and the collectors and the people that are after that and just focus more on what's proven. Dude, here's the thing. It depends. There's a PSA 9 that I think was like $400 a month ago. And then there's a sale that was $140 or $150 the other day. It was less than half. So that's where I'm saying, if the prices are less than half of what it was a month ago, then that's when you're like, okay, maybe it is a good time. Well, okay. So, and here's another thing too, is with selling in July, I have this calendar that I created last week that I had in the live stream. And the goal was to look at what's going to happen over the next 6 months and just piece it together so I can figure out, well, if I sell a lot of the football in July when the rookies report to training camp and the NBA playoffs are over and the NHL playoffs are over and the Olympics are the only thing, and soccer is going on. But if there's a time when NFL is really picking up, well, if I sell in preseason, that could be the perfect time to buy basketball with all that money, because July, August might be very low for a lot of basketball. And then so I can get in very early, sell early, but rotate it over and over again. And it's not like the most fun, exciting way of doing it. But in a sense, I want to be able to pay my bills and keep this thing going versus put my money into a guy that's going to, you know, break his leg or have some off the field issue. So that's why I have to incorporate all the major sports: basketball, football, baseball, and even a bit of hockey. And I don't mind soccer as well, just if it's very off season and very low. Okay. You know what, man? Here's the thing, Ethan. I wanted to be more into basketball this year, and unfortunately, my hockey team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, are #1 in the league, and my football team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, won the Super Bowl, and my basketball team that I like is the Orlando Magic, who pretty much gave away everyone for draft picks. So it's very hard to be a basketball fan when 2 of your teams have won championships, and the last team that wasn't even in the city you grew up in, but you just associated with them, has been dreadful to the point where they just are starting over yet again. So next season I'll be in basketball, and then during the playoffs I'll be in basketball. But during the playoff time, I'm going to be looking at the prices of the guys that never made it to the playoffs to see when, let's say, like SGA or depends. I don't know if Zion and the Pelicans are getting into the playoffs, but I'm going to be looking for those guys that did not make it to the playoffs to see if, not if, but when is the good time to get in on them. So that's going to be more my thing. Like, hey, everyone take a look at the Blazers and the Clippers and whoever, and the Mavs, hopefully, and whatever else. But if the Hawks don't make it, I'll be looking at Trae Young. If the Mavs for some reason don't make it, I'll be looking at Luka and doing all that. But it's just too risky for me to invest for the playoffs, knowing that they have to win and someone on the other end has got to pay a premium because they think they're going to go even further than that point. All right. Well, the one thing with the Patriots is the Patriots is the perfect proof that you need great weapons around you to have your quarterback shine. Because if you remember, Tom Brady, before he went to Tampa, people were saying he should retire. He's washed up. Just let it go. Go into retirement. You've had a great career, and he had like the worst complimentary players. Period. So he left, and then all of a sudden, Jared Stidham, Cam Newton, and Brian Hoyer all looked like crap because they had no weapons. They had no one to throw to. And Tom Brady goes to a stacked offense that got better with an offensive line with Tristan Wirfs, and they got Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette, and then they win the Super Bowl in the first year. So complimentary players are huge. Okay. Let's see here. Here's the thing. Oh, dude, here's the thing. Justice is justice. Whatever it is, whatever it is actual guilty, I want to be done, right? If you're guilty, you're guilty, and you like the system plays its course and runs its course, and then that is the sentence. I don't want it to be any less because he's a quarterback or any more because someone else lied or embellished. Like whatever it actually is, that's all I want. So I want to clear that up because that's it. I just want justice, but it's tough when you don't know what it actually is. When it's like circumstantial evidence and blah blah blah. I just want whatever it is to be done. What's up, Ziggy? Good to see you, man. And Crazy Card Deals, The Show Locator on Instagram at The Show Locator. Submit the flyers and forms there, and then his name's Donald. He'll repost them so everyone can go check it out. And if you're around the country, and maybe even if you're out of the country and you have this, have shows going on, then go to The Show Locator on Instagram and submit there. What's up, LA Collection? Levon in the house. Levon, I was going to ask you if you're going to the show tomorrow. Here's the thing, man. Backup quarterbacks, if you get the best backup quarterbacks versus a shaky starter, an unknown starter, you can get it for dirt cheap. All right. Okay, I see that you put Shaq here. Dude, Shaq and Charles Barkley, I think that's one thing to be aware of is that I like Shaq more now in his post-career than him as a player. And I was a huge Magic fan, and then he broke my heart when he went to LA. But when I see Shaq and Charles Barkley on TNT, I want to buy their cards more because of their personality, because I'm actually laughing and smiling from their banter than just watching him play on a team that I don't really care about. So with social media and with all these personalities and like Peyton Manning, for example, who was a great player, one of the best quarterbacks ever. But when I see him on those Papa John's commercials and I see him doing these little segments, I like him more. And I would want his card more for myself because of that association versus just the association of him throwing touchdowns. So maybe it's a bit different now because you have like Terry Bradshaw and all these guys that are very likable on TV. But that's the reason I bought Gronk cards. I had 6 PSA 10 Rob Gronkowski rookie cards before he got out of retirement and signed with the Bucks. And then when that happened, it turned out to be an amazing investment. But the reason I bought the cards to begin with was that I just liked seeing Gronk's personality because he reminded me of what I was like, 10 years ago as a teenager and in my early 20s. Okay. Yeah, I agree. The hollows are great. The hollow, what's it called? The optic hollows. You should be. You should be. It's really good cake. Dude, I love that 70s show. So if you have those, I would totally take them. And Kels, I have, in terms of Pokemon, I always played Pokemon Blue on the Game Boy game, and I loved Squirtle. So Blastoise was my favorite. Everyone liked Charizard, and some people like Venusaur, but Blastoise was my favorite by far. And he had cannons coming out of his shell. I mean, how cool is that? Okay, Dedrick there is a lot of product being released in April. There's a ton of product being released in April. And so if you guys saw the live stream last week, the calendar I'm putting together, which if you're on my newsletter list, in fact, I'll put it down here at the bottom. There's going to be a link there the whole time so that you could always check the calendar. And on the calendar, I included product releases that are out, that are currently out there. And then let me see if that's it. Yeah, so that you could just take a look there. Product releases, dates of NFL draft, NBA draft, playoffs beginning, free agency, stuff like that. I'm throwing in there because I want to know not only what products coming out, but what kind of things are going on in sports. When is the Hall of Fame announcement? When's the Hall of Fame enshrinement? When do the Olympics start? So that I know that 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the Olympics, I can factor in all the media attention going there. I want to piece it together so I have a better idea as to what could be low and what could be high based on all these different factors. And of course, there's a lot more factors out there like new people getting in the hobby and people leaving, people going to NFTs, people going to Top Shot, stuff that I have no idea how to calculate. But at least I know that if we can put on a calendar, this is what's happening. These are the sports that are ending. These are the sports that are starting. This is the product that's being released. This is when school is out. This is when tax money is going to come back. This is when stimulus checks end. If we can do that, at least we have a much better idea as to, okay, people don't have money now, and we have 4 sports going on and 1 sport that is off season. Maybe it's that sport that there's no money to go there to. So the prices there could be very low. That could be the time to buy. So you can check it out there. Yeah, I will say, James, that the cards, the sets that were out before 2012 were some of the most ugly, hideous sets ever. So compared to, I mean, and I don't like Prism. I think Prism's ugly, but the first year Prism's ugly. But the cards in 2010, 2011 were just hideous. Who are you talking about there? Are you talking about Russell Wilson? Because maybe so, but oh, dude. Great thing. Michael Thomas, and I bought a lot of Michael Thomas because, again, a wide receiver that came in as the #1 guy in 2019, coming into the 2020 year. His prices were high. His numbers were through the roof. I think he was the #1 fantasy wide receiver of 2019. And then it just injuries and everything happened. And he had Drew Brees with his noodle arm throwing to him. And he just did not have a very good year. But Michael Thomas is a great wide receiver. And I think he's only 26, 27, something like that. So I did get a handful of Michael Thomas PSA 9s and 10s. And then Jameis Winston, I'm not getting him now because it's like too much hype on him. But I bought 2 of his rookie cards before all of this happened. And those were the 2 cards that I never got in the mail. Like I may have gotten them and lost them, or they stole them at the post office, or someone stole the packages from my car, but I never opened those packages. And I saw that a Jameis Winston Prism PSA 10, I don't know if it was a shell bid or not, but it was at $250. And I'm like, that's a lot of money for a quarterback who's proven he throws just as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. And yeah, he's going to be a starter, but I need to see Jameis actually play better for me to believe in him. I mean, he's following up Drew Brees, which, you know, you go from one legend to one guy who's borderline backup, borderline starter, and $250 for a PSA 10 of Winston. Like, how much higher can that go unless he starts the season and throws 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, which I'm doubtful that's going to happen. What's up, Jared? Good to see you, man. Let's see this. Yeah, I'm really curious about CSG. I just don't really have. I like when everyone is talking about CSG and is having it and respects it, then I'll get into it. Right now, it's just like the others where I need more time, because when you think of how much change is going on in the hobby, there are new platforms, there's new concepts, there's new companies every single month, and I'm like, that's way too new for me to have an idea if it's going to last or not. So that's why I'd rather go with tried and true. And then just like rookies, just like rookie players, just like new sets, new grading companies, everything, I'm pretty much going to back off for a year. right? If you're still around and people still respect you and like you after a year, then I will go in. But I need that trial period because I don't want to get in on, HCG or HGH or whatever it is the grading company of the future. Well, it might be, but what if PSA just buys them out? Or what if they buy out SGC and just do the same technology? Or what about there's a scandal that comes out with HGC and all of a sudden overnight that they dissolve? I need, in such a volatile time with the market and with the hobby and the industry, I need way more reassurance. Dude, I have been saving, man. I'm a saver. That's pretty much it. I reinvest pretty much everything, and I live very humbly. My biggest splurge is this $18 a week on cake. And I thought about this the other day. Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm a huge Bucs fan. Rob Gronkowski signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Huge Gronk fan even before. However, I don't have either of their jerseys. Why? Because the second I buy those jerseys, that I see it as money that could have gone towards investments that would have fueled what I want to do. And I know that I can always get a Tom Brady Bucs jersey a year after he retires, and I'll be okay with it. So delay gratification is the only good answer I have. Dude, I don't think that's going to happen. If they didn't do that now, I don't think it's going to happen, which means it's even more reason for me to like PSA, because at least I have an idea of what's there. And the thing is, I will say this, people, it's like a double-edged sword with the subgrades of BGS, because with the subgrades, you have a better idea of what is wrong with the card. You could see that. The double-edged sword part is, if you take a look at a chart of a BGS 9.5 card, it's all over the place, because a BGS 9.5 without subgrades goes for less. And then one that has 2 10s in there goes for way more. And it's kind of like, well, now it's tougher for me to understand what a 9.5 is really worth, because now there's a whole range of value just in that 9.5. But yeah, is what it is. Dude, what's funny about this, Alec, is I'm looking at my screen here on StreamYard, and the little signal going spotty internet is popping up. So I don't know if that means Dustin's in the house or what's going on, but yeah, I always get nervous about that. All right, Wayne asks, will the backlog of graded cards drop values by this time next year once they're on the market? Well, here's the thing, man. If there's one thing I've learned from a year of being back in this hobby after 20 years off, is this is ultimate supply and demand. So the supply will go up when all the cards hit the market. However, if there's twice the amount of people in the hobby in a year's time, then it may just balance out. So if people leave the hobby and the cards come back from PSA, then yeah, the prices should lower. However, what we don't know is how many people are coming into the hobby. And I will say this, internationally, so many of you guys are Australian, English, there's German, there's Korean, there's where else? Like New Zealand, Costa Rica, all these places. Maybe in America, like, it's going to taper off, but maybe there's other parts of the world where it's only getting started right now. And in fact, shout out to Alec. He just messaged me about he is putting together one of Australia's biggest card shows and wanted to have me talk via, I guess, like a FaceTime or a StreamYard. So if Australia on the other side of the world is so excited about sports cards, then maybe Spain and Germany and England and South Africa and wherever else. So it sucks when you don't know the future, right? Connor McDavid, I'm not, the only team I really follow is the Tampa Bay Lightning, but of course I've heard Connor McDavid's a beast, and I'd rather just buy off season though. What is better long-term potential, Chrome or Prism on, what's on the RW? I'm thinking right wing, like hockey terms, right wing. So I need to know what that is. This is, yeah, here, dude, it's so funny you mentioned this, Timothy, because I'm doing like a video about what I've learned from my first year and how I'm changing my strategy based on what I learned from the first year entering the second. And one of the biggest takeaways is that I can't rely on luck as much, because luck bailed me out this first year on a lot of investments where I things made sense logically, and then they just didn't turn out that way. And when so many investors get burnt like they did in August because the prices corrected for the first time, and then in February when all the vintage and 90s corrected for the first time, when investors and collectors see that happen, they've got to learn a lesson. So then they understand, okay, things don't go up forever. I need to be smarter. I need to be savvier. I need to buy a bit further in advance, or buy cards that are a bit more proven, or look at sales data, whether it's COMC or PWCC's tool, or eBay sales, or Market Movers, or Card Ladder. You got to do something a bit more advanced than just like, hey, this card looks cool and I like this guy, and that's it. So I expect lower profits overall as people enter their second year and third year in the hobby and the industry, and more information is out there on how to be smarter. There's still going to be a very emotional element where people go crazy when there's a three-pointer shot and whatnot. But if you invested in Tyler Hero last summer at the peak, not at the bottom, but at the peak, and it didn't work out, you probably learned your lesson. Okay, well, I can't make that mistake again. How do I do it differently? And then you do it differently. You buy a bit earlier, you get out a bit earlier, and then the market adjusts that way. So that's why I would rather be very early and out early than get in when everyone else does and then try and time it, and then I'm the one that's holding the bag. All right. My Holy Grail card, I actually had a video on this. It's a Bart Simpson drawing from Matt Groening, the creator. And to me, that would be like an RPA. It's like an RPA of The Simpsons. And The Simpsons I watch way more than any sports team. So it's a weird card, but it's really cool because it's an actual drawing from the creator. In terms of, I think for me, there's just certain times to buy certain sports, like baseball. Everyone is like, well, are you buying baseball now? I'm selling baseball now because I was buying baseball in November when the prices were really low. And now that opening day is April 1st, I would rather other people take a chance on whatever players they think they're going to do well. I hope they do well. And then I can just use that money and roll it over into NBA players that are going to get eliminated in the next couple months. No, we need him. We need him. Okay, let's see. Yeah, dude, here's the thing, man. Like I've said before, I'll just say one more time. Whoever is guilty and whatever they're guilty of, I just want justice, period. But I'm not one that overreacts to the news. I don't like judging like the court of public opinion. I'm not into that. So whatever it is, and I want that to be clear, but I don't want to jump to conclusions one way or the other. All right. What if the card bubble pops? That would suck, for one. But two, I don't, what I'm hearing based on the interest rates, based on how much money is being printed, based on the international appeal, I think these corrections are just good and will happen more and more, because not more and more, but like when cards double in price 3 times over in a month, it's going to correct, because there's just like a timeline where it's going to end, that. But the whole market bursting, I remember Patrick Bet-David said this on Jeremy's station, Sports Cards Live. And he said, look, when interest rates go up, which will probably be in 2023, that's when he would look for everything to pop, not just sports cards. So he knows way more than me. And he still said he might be wrong on this, but that makes more sense. When interest rates go up and money's not as free flowing, that makes more sense. But that's also why soccer and basketball make a lot of sense, just because they're international sports. So even if the U.S. market, we enter another recession, at least if Europe and Asia and South America and other countries are into sports cards, and if some of those countries are doing well, at least there might be an international buyer there. All right. The card show tomorrow, I'd have to look it up. I don't think I'm going to go to it, to be honest. I will, in terms of the national, I'm definitely going to go. Let me know if you guys are going to be there. Dude, Kaepernick, this is one guy I bought a while ago. I bought Kaepernick. He was one of my best early investments because when the whole George Floyd incidents were going on and the riots, and here in LA there was riots nonstop. When all that was going on, I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if Colin Kaepernick will get tied into this, just because it always goes back to anything in society will go back to what do the athletes think in sports. And then when that happened, it started with LeBron and the others giving their 2 cents on it. And we had the whole Black Lives Matter movement. And then I knew that it would go to, well, what about Colin Kaepernick? What was he standing for? And I mean, I sold like a $5 Topps Chrome X-Fractor, his Topps Chrome X-Fractor that I bought for $5 for 50. And now it's like I think a $100 card, but I was super excited because I turned 5 into 50 from just thinking ahead. So Colin Kaepernick, I've been thinking about him recently too, just because when a player doesn't get mentioned for a long time, and get this, Kaepernick was one of those guys that Gary Vee actually mentioned in the past. And when there's a Gary Vee factor involved, when Gary Vee has uttered the name of an athlete before, you just know it's a matter of time before that could happen again. And so when I think of like, all right, he's mentioned Hakeem Olajuwon, I bought a few of his cards, Colin Kaepernick, and because Gary Vee has such an influence on the hobby, if he says, man, I can't believe like this guy's overpriced, when you have someone like Colin Kaepernick out there who's having a huge impact on culture at a fraction of the price, that the second that is released, all the Colin Kaepernick cards are just going to go through the roof for like 72 hours. So I always think about what would Gary Vee say, and how would that affect card prices. Yo, Darren, what's up, man? Everyone, Darren, he is a great teacher and also a YouTuber as well. I like the logo you got going on here. So make sure to check out Darren's station as well. Dex, I don't know, man. Here's the thing. If I go to the National, I don't know if I'm going to be buying, selling, or if I'm just going to be chatting the whole time, because I'd love to come with a strategy, maybe sell, maybe do stuff, but it just depends, because I think it'll be such a social event that I don't know how much time I'll have. I might have to set up deals ahead of time to see if people have the cards I want. But because it's in July, more than likely I'd be looking to move all of my football cards maybe right before the National, and then go to the National and buy up basketball of players that were eliminated 2 months prior. That might be a good swap, is go to the local card shows here in LA in July right before, liquidate football just to use that money to roll into basketball way off season of those guys. I wish they made a Harden card that didn't make me depressed looking at it. I mean, the rookie card at least. That was horrible. What do you guys think of Jason Tatum? I'm not going to – oh, well, I mean, it's a sweet picture. I can't really offer insight on Jason Tatum because I don't know what the Celtics are doing. I know they've struggled. And I'm not one to buy for the playoffs, because if I'm wrong, then I'm going to lose money. I'd rather not lose money. Oh, man. Yeah, here's the difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan and the Bulls beat my Magic, who I loved, and yet I was still a fan of Michael Jordan. LeBron James doesn't have the likability factor that Jordan had, because even as the biggest rival to Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic, I still had a giant cardboard cutout of Michael Jordan, full size, 6'6", in my room, because he was that charismatic of a guy and so likable, and Space Jam and all that. All right, I didn't realize how far back I was. He would absolutely not. Cam Newton, dude, I bought Cam Newton last year as well, and I sold a few of them, and then I bought a couple more, and I'm still holding them on COMC. Nothing big. I just never liked Cam Newton. But here's the thing: he's just like Tom Brady looked horrible with bad receivers. Cam Newton gets a couple of receivers, gets a better offensive line, gets a couple of pieces. He could look good. Well, if Dustin had better internet, he'd be on here and he'd be able to, but he doesn't. The one thing I don't like about HGA is that the slabs are huge. I'm like, how many pounds of plastic do I have to recycle to make one HGA slab? I feel like it's like an otter box for a card. Dude, I'm telling you. Yeah, I haven't bought a Tom Brady jersey yet in a Bucks uniform, in a Bucks jersey. And if I can put that on the back burner until he retires and I can buy one just for the hell of it for $20 on sale, I'll do it. Hey, there you are. There you are. Yeah, I knew it. Dude, this is how far back I am on the comments. All right, guys. Absolutely. I think Buddha said that change is the only constant right there. All right, so guys, if you haven't seen the cards I bought, I'll just show it to you one more time if you jumped on. This is about $8,000 worth. This will just be like a nice way to cap it off. So I've gotten the Russell Wilson's pop report of about 300. I'm going to remove the comment just so you guys can see it a bit clear. So Russell Wilson, I think he's a very safe bet overall. Maybe not the flashiest, but got 5 of those in PSA 10. They were about 900, 950 each. Kyler Murray, big on him. Remember, if you know the PSA 10s, everyone is searching for the PSA 10s, but you might be able to find a good deal on an SGC 10 or a BGS 9.5. I think these together were $340, so about 170 each for SGC 10 and BGS 9.5. I thought that was a very good value. And then I'd say the best looking card of all of those, the Optic Hollow Lamar Jackson's, a pop report of, I think it said what, like 200, 250, something like that. Crazy low pop report on Lamar Jackson. Look for the Ravens to get an offensive lineman or perhaps another wide receiver in the draft. I think that'll really help his chances. And if you're looking at the draft, just remember, it doesn't have to be, like the player could be decent, but if they get a great complementary player or 2 wide receivers or 2 offensive linemen and a running back, it can really do wonders for a quarterback. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to sign off, eat my delicious cake. It was leg day, so I deserve it. And have a great weekend. Check out Dustin's station. Check out Darren's station. See ya.